Okay, guys. So my brother, Jensen, he wrote a letter, because he couldn't be here, for me to read to y'all. So it says, on behalf of my mother and the whole Kistler family, I want to say thank you for being here tonight. We realize you could be anywhere else. In fact, here's a list of events going on in the area that if you leave right now, you can still make it to. Joking. As the youngest son in the Kistler family, most of these stories here tonight I've actually lived through. So my advice to the little ones, to you with little ones, is to take them out now, strap them in the car, and get them straight to therapy. All joking aside, an appropriate name for this comedy channel launch might be All Joking Aside, because aside from any actual jokes you were expecting to come here and here, all you're going to get is another batch of insanely personal stories you had to live through and be there to get. Yet you were not living there, or you were, forgive me, yet you were not there. I'm writing this from Las Vegas, as far away as possible I could get from my new job. As despite what you might think, I didn't take a career with the airline to avoid this YouTube release show. It was just a happy coincidence. But the joke is on me, as I will probably still hear the laughter and feel the love and support from the other side of the country, because, really, who doesn't love my mother and want her to succeed in any endeavor she sets out for? And for that, I say thank you again for the support. Sit back, get comfortable, rest your eyes, have a good nap. Just kidding. So let's have another huge round of applause for my favorite mother and yours. We all love her, Patti Kistler.
Tell me. Thank you. Hello, everybody. All right, is everybody doing okay tonight? Yes. I thank you for coming. Like they said, you could have been anywhere. I've seen some of you down at the bars, but yeah. Cassandra, you know I'm talking about you. When I raised I have 3 sons and a husband. I don't do sports. And I especially don't do football. I've had some people try to teach me. I don't want to know how. I don't want to know. I don't care. But with having a husband, he came already liking sports. So I was smart, buddy. I took those 3 boys when they were very little, and I trained them that good little boys that love their mother do not like football. And it worked so well. We had 2 TVs in our house. We had this nice, pretty color TV in the living room. And then in the bedroom, we had this little tiny yellow box cube that David bought with his very first paycheck when he was a teenager. And it was a very grainy, black and white TV. But it was fine for him to watch football on. So I'd let him come in the living room and find out on the color TV who was in the dark colors and who was in the light. And back in the bedroom he went. And then the boys and I would watch movies. Well, this goes on pretty well. Then my oldest son, Jeffrey, a couple of years later, he turned against me and decided he liked football. So back in the bedroom he went. A couple more years go by, and Josh, he turned against me and decided he liked football. So back in the bedroom he went. A couple of years later, my baby, Jensen, the sweet, tender, lovely little boy, turned against me. They sent me to the bedroom. I went right out and got a brand new color TV for the bedroom. I'm not sitting in there. Now, before you had computers and cable TV and all that stuff, I'm a night owl. And before you had all that stuff, there wasn't a whole lot to do at 1, 2 in the morning. But that's the time my creative juices would flow. So I'm up at all hours of the night. And I especially like to write handwritten letters to friends. I'm writing a letter, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm an avid reader, but I don't spell well. I can look at a word and tell you it's misspelled, but I can't fix it. Well, I needed to write the word idiot. I don't know why, but I did. So I'm over here on the scratch pad going, idiot, no, that's not right. Idiot, no, that's not, idiot. What am I going to do? Who can you call at 2 o'clock in the morning and ask them how to spell idiot? Telephone operator. They're up 24/7. So I pick up the phone, dial the O, and on comes, what city, please? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't need that. I need help with spelling a word. What word, please? Could you please tell me how to spell idiot? Idiot. I-D-I-O-T. Idiot. Click. I think the phone operator just called me an idiot. So God bless my mother. She bought me a dictionary that year so that I didn't have random strangers calling me an idiot. A couple of years later, still before computers, we were having Thanksgiving the very next morning. I'm 2 o'clock in the morning, about to go to bed, walk through the kitchen and realize I have 5 pumpkin pies on the table in the kitchen. Do you have to refrigerate those things? I don't know. I don't know. Who are you going to call at 2 o'clock in the... Telephone operator. So I get the phone, dial 0. What city, please? I'm sorry, I don't need city help. I need to know, do you have to refrigerate pumpkin pies? I'm not sure. Let me ask some of the girls. So as you could tell, she put her hand over the mic, and you could hear her. Girls, do you have to refrigerate? Click. This voice comes on the phone. Ma'am, this is the telephone operator supervisor. This is not a food channel operating information system. This is a telephone information system. Ooh, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. Click. I didn't even let go of the phone, and it rang. It scared me. I picked it up and said, hello? And it was the first girl whispering, yes, they have milk in them. You need it to be refrigerated. Okay, thanks. God bless the telephone operators. Years ago, my 2 younger sisters had a lot of ear problems. They had infections and all kinds of stuff, and the doctor told my mother that our family needed to learn sign language at some point. One or both of them may become deaf. So Mom got busy, and we all learned how to finger spell in sign language, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. But then Mom had surgery on both of the girls, and it worked. Dang it, neither one of them was deaf. So that was it. We didn't learn any more sign. But a few years later, I was at church, and there was a woman singing and signing while she sang. But she knew the signs for words. I just knew how to finger spell. And I could do it. You could have a conversation with a deaf person, but it takes forever to do it. So I went straight to her and said, I want that. I want to learn. So she taught me all she could teach me. Then I went to different classes. I went to every class I could find, and I sucked it up. And I got pretty darn proficient. But I was forgetting it because I lived in a house with a husband and 3 boys. They didn't want to learn sign language. So I was talking to Joshua's 1st grade teacher. She said, come teach the kids. If you teach something, you'll remember it more. So that for the next 10 years, 1 day a week from May to later, June, from November to June, I taught sign language to 10 classes. And everywhere you'd go, my mother used to say, you never know what the next person that she's taught may do. They may eventually sign the inauguration's address. You never know. So I'm pretty good at sign. Then my other son, Jensen's 1st grade teacher, started to have to raise a grandchild. And this child is totally deaf, 100% deaf. So she calls me and said, could you help me? Sometimes I don't have a babysitter and I need one. I said, okay, I did. She's 4 years old when I met her. She's 20 now, great kid, Lauren. Well, now I'm feeling pretty good about myself because I can communicate with the deaf. We're in church one day. I sit in the back. I'm not trying to be a big showboat or anything. It's a form of worship for me. So I'm sitting in the back signing. We got a new lady at the church. She comes over and says, "Oh, I know sign language, but I do all the new signs. You do all the old stuff." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I converse with a kid that goes to the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind, and she can understand me. And what's your problem?" But she kept coming over week after week. "Oh, I see you're still doing the old signs." Well, she made me very uncomfortable. She has a name. I never could remember it. And in my head, I used to call her, good Christian woman that I am, I got to know her as Miss Snobby Snot. So when I would see Miss Snobby Snot on Sundays, I would hold my hands tight and say, "Don't sign, don't sign, don't sign." And she just made me feel bad. Well, one day, I'm taking Lauren out. Lauren and I are having lunch. And we're conversing in sign across the table. Well, who should walk into the restaurant? Miss Snobby Snot. She sees me signing. Miss Snobby Snot makes a beeline for my table. Now I'm just completely uncomfortable. So I introduce her to Lauren, and then I am looking at Lauren because she makes me uncomfortable. So I'm not watching her, but in my peripheral, I could see her just signing away. She's just going to town for 3 to 5 minutes. She's over there signing. She finally stopped, put her hands in the ready position, and looked at Lauren for a reply. Lauren was watching her. She looked at me, and she signed. What'd she say? I love that kid. I love that kid. Her grandmother did not like her having sweets. She got an ice cream cone with 2 scoops that day. She deserved that. I bought myself a set of CDs to learn Spanish. Haven't done it yet, but I want to learn Spanish. And I told David, if I learn Spanish, I'll be trilingual. David looks at me and says, "Okay, you're going to learn Spanish. You already know sign language. What other language do you speak?" Give it a minute, baby. It'll come to you. Just give it. Because I like language, I like different things like synonyms and antonyms. And we were sitting around, a bunch of friends and a little bit of family, sitting around a table one night. And we were trying to think, what is the word for words that are spelled the same forward and back? Like mom and wow and race car and bob. What is the word? Well, I'll tell you now so that you don't spend the next 20 minutes trying to figure it out. It's palindrome. But while we were throwing out words for it, someone said personification. Josh said, "Nope, I know personification." We were all just as shocked as you. Josh said, "I know personification." He said, "Where I live, I assign it to a bush out behind my house." His fence, his privacy fence, faced woodland. But he didn't like stuff to grow directly next to his fence. So he would keep an eye on it and go, when it got too tall, he'd go back there and mow it. So he said there's this one bush that keeps coming back, just keeps going like the Energizer Bunny, keeps coming back. But he says he's watching it. He said it gets to a certain point and it's like he's saying, "Ooh, I can almost see over the fence." Then he watches a couple of weeks later, it's like, I can see over the fence. Then it gets a little taller and it's like, "Oh no, they can see me. And then he goes out and cuts him down. He said, "That's personification." Okay, I'm a dog lover. Any dog lovers in the house? Okay, I used to have 2 Siberian Huskies. They lived 14 and 16 years. Then we had 14 and 15. Then we had a little mutt dog. Her name was Robin, but nobody ever called her that. We always called her Little Fat Legs. Her legs weren't fat, but she was. So we went to the vet one time to get new tags for the Huskies, and here's this puppy in a cage. And Josh, biggest dog lover there ever was, said, "What's with the puppy?" Well, somebody dropped it off, and so if we don't get rid of it by 5, then we're going to put it to sleep. It's 4 o'clock. So I said, "I can't make this call," because David's always saying, "You and those darn dogs, they cost more than the kids do." I said, "Yes, but I love them more than the kids." They don't back talk me. They're always happy to see me. So we called his dad and we said, there's this puppy. And I got on the phone. I said, I am not going to be the bad guy. You are the one that's going to tell them that they can't have this puppy. So we go on home. David comes home an hour later, puppy sitting on his lap. So now we have the puppy. He couldn't be the bad guy. So she's very short. The vet said he thinks she's part Dachshund, part Beagle, part Cocker Spaniel. So Jensen called her a Dobby Cock, okay? But she's got short little Dachshund legs, but her body is really fat. They said she should be somewhere between 12 and 15 pounds. Most of her life she weighed 29 to 30. So, but her neck was really fat, but her head was really tiny. So you put a collar on her. First time she put her head down, there went the collar. So she lived her entire life without a collar because she just couldn't. So Robin lived to 16 years old. I go away for 9 months. My mother got very ill, and I moved over to where they lived to help take care of her, and only came back on weekends when we had something special to do. I came back one weekend to go to a college graduation. The dog's gone. I said, David, where's little fat legs? Honey, the boys and I decided you had enough stress with your mother being ill. Robin has been gone for 3 weeks. We figure she went out in the woods to die. I was like, what? I said, what happened on the day she left? He said, well, I put her outside and I went to go get something to eat. And while I was gone, a storm came up, and when I came home, she was gone. I said, David, she's afraid of storms. He said, yeah, I talked to the neighbor next door. She came over, scratched on his door, but he wouldn't let her in because she was wet. I said, did you go to the animal control? She doesn't wear a collar. Did you go to animal control? Oh, I thought of it. I called them and described her. I'm like, a room full of people, you describe a dog, you're never going to get the same description drawn out. So you have to go to animal control. So I get a picture of her. The next morning we dress for the graduation. We go down to animal control. I didn't know this, but every animal they take in, they take a picture of it. And they have it on a screen. So I handed her my picture. Sure enough, she click, click, click. There's my dog. She said, yes, we picked her up 3 weeks ago. Well, this dog is 16 years old, half blind, half deaf. You know they're going to put her to sleep. Nobody wants an old dog like that. So I said, okay, could you tell me when you euthanized her? And they said, no, we have her. Yes, I see that. When did you euthanize her? They said, no, we have her. I said, why didn't you euthanize her? I mean, she's an old dog. They said, she's an old dog, but she's well taken care of. We figured somebody would come looking for her. What she didn't add was, I don't know why it took 3 weeks to come looking for her. So we go out, they take us out to this big pen where there's like 25, 35 dogs out in this pen. So of course when we walk out, they're all, pick me, woo, 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 take me, woo, woo, I want to go home, woo, woo. And I'm still looking for this dog. Well, there she is over on the side, not too far from the fence, sound asleep. I mean, she's old, she sleeps a lot. So I go over, I try calling her, she can't hear me. All these other dogs making noise, so I slipped my hand in the fence and put my fingers as close to her nose as I could get. And all of a sudden, you could see her twitching her nose, and then, oh, I know that smell. I know, that's Mommy. So she jumps up, and I said, that's her, we'll take her. The woman says, do you have proof of her rabies vaccination? No, it's at the house. Why would I thought you killed her. Why would I carry that with me? So I said, well, I don't have time to go to the graduation, then go get the proof, and then come back. And I wasn't smart enough to say, just give her another shot. We're not going to kill her. I mean, she's 16. If it did, no big deal. But, it's not going to kill her. So I said, I will come back and get her tomorrow with the proof. I'm sorry, we're closed tomorrow. Oh, crap. So I have to go back the next day. Well, so I said, all right, I'll be here the day after tomorrow to come get her. I'm starting to leave, and I'm telling her, I'll be back, Robin, I swear. Robin's standing there. What did I do? Why are you leaving me? It was the worst thing in the world. And David's sitting there saying, it's okay, it's okay. It's not okay. If you'd have come up here 3 weeks ago, she wouldn't have had this problem, you know. So I go back to get her. They said, there is a boarding fee. Okay, so David whips the checkbook out. They said, that'll be $216 for a 3-week boarding fee. David says, what? I just shot him the look. He said, I just didn't hear her. I need to know how much to write it for. So he's writing it up. So then we're going home. She's sitting on my lap. She didn't want nothing to do with David. So she's sitting on my lap, and I told him, I said, I think she's sick. Her nose is hot and dry. She's not acting right. Let's take her to the vet. So we took her to the vet. She had kennel cough, infections, a skin infection. So they're giving her shots and medicine and creams and all this stuff. They come up and they said, that'll be $107, please. David says, $107? And I looked at him, he said, is not too much to pay for someone in the family. And he's writing the check. Then we get in the car, and he said, you know, we did this wrong. We should have gone there and said, you know what? We'd like to adopt a dog. We'll take an old, fat, yellow one that doesn't see well and doesn't hear well. I bet we could have got that dog for $20. He said, now I'm $323 down for a 16-year-old dog. But I told him, I talked to the boys. I said, boys, let me have a talk with you. Should I ever go missing, for God's sake, please do not leave it up to your father to find me. Come look for me yourselves. Okay, David has a joke he likes. He learned it. He told it for about a week. It's, your mama's glasses are so thick, she could see people waving on a road map. Okay, so he told this joke for a week, and he finally came to me and he said, why would people be waving on a road map? I mean, he didn't even get the joke. So we're at home. We had just gotten home from church. We're tired. David's mother calls and said, would you guys take me to Illinois to see my sister-in-law? We said, sure. When do you want to go? Tomorrow. Like, what? What? I said, well, we have so many things. Okay, let me see what we can do. So I'm in there. I call the church. I'm not going to be there. Get somebody to take over my Sunday school. David's not going to be there. He's not going to play in the band. We called our trivia friends. We're not going to be at trivia. We called our life group. We're not going to be at life group. We called our chiropractor. We're not going to be there. Got it all set up. David goes out and checks the oil in the car, and then he comes in and sits down to play computer checkers. Now, I'm doing laundry, packing, cleaning, doing everything. And finally, I was tired, and I said to him, honey, could you empty the dishwasher? Oh, my gosh, he slammed that computer drawer closed, jumped up and said, well, I guess I'll just do everything then. So we get it all ready. At 9 o'clock, his mother calls and said, oh, I called my sister-in-law. She's in the hospital, so it's not a good time. Like, wouldn't you have done that first? Called and said, can I come visit you? So now here I am, 100% ready to go. And now I'm disappointed. Well, I have been, at that time, I had been to 48 of the 50 states. I hadn't been to Hawaii yet, and I had somehow, when I traveled with my parents, we missed Michigan. So I'm sitting there all distraught. David says, want to go to Michigan? I'm like, yeah, it sounds like fun, you know, but I'm sitting there thinking, no, we've got to be at church. No, we canceled that. We've got trivia. No, we canceled that. I said, honey, I can't think of a reason why not to go. So we went. And I'm sitting there with the map in my lap as we cross over the Michigan line. David says to me, are you excited to be in your 49th state? I said, honey, I am so excited you can see me smiling on this road map. He leaned over to look. So after we finished looking through Michigan, David had heard, we went across Canada, we saw the Niagara Falls from the Canadian side, much prettier than the American side, just FYI. And we decided to go to West Virginia. David had heard about this place called Left Hand, West Virginia. Now, David's left-handed, which explains a whole lot about David. So he says, let's go. I said, okay, well, I'm the navigator. So we're on the interstate. I get us off, and we go straight to West Virginia's Left Hand, which is, their post office was in the middle of a cow field. You know, it's a little tiny place. So we're there, and then we decide, okay, it's time to go. So we get in the car, and I said, look, instead of backtracking, which we would normally do, I think if we take this road, we'll meet up there, we won't see what we've already seen, and we'll meet the interstate. He said, okay, I'll trust you. So we start driving. We're running parallel to the interstate, but we can't find the entrance ramp. And I said, if you just keep going, we'll surely find it sooner or later. He says, no, it's starting to get dark, and I hear the banjos starting to tune up. Bum, 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 bum. He said, we are asking for directions. A miracle, a man asking for directions. So just as we're passing a gas station, a young man walks out of the gas station. David makes a real quick U-turn in front of him. I roll the window down. I said, I'm sorry. We can see the interstate, but we can't figure out how to get on it. Well, he saw us make the U-turn. He got the cutest little gleam in his eyes, and he said, well, in his West Virginia accent, he says, well, you just turn around, you go right up that hill, and there you are. And we just got so tickled. For the rest of the time, we would say, now what were those directions? We'd say, well, you just turn around, you go right up that hill, and there you are. So that was our lovely West Virginia trip. Okay, now I've told y'all about my sister Victoria. She's my niece/sister. She is 33 years old now. She's about 6 to 10 somewhere mentally, and she's got lots of problems, but she's the funniest kid you ever want to meet. So Mom used to let me take her home with me for a couple of months and give them a break. So I had her at my house one time. Well, actually, I was coming home with her one time, and I was starting to get sleepy. So I'm driving, and I said to her, Victoria, I was like trying to stay awake. I said, Victoria, at the next rest area, we're going to have to stop. Sister's going to have to take a little snooze. Put my hand back on the wheel. Victoria slapped the crap out of me. Right across my cheek, big red handprint. I'm like, Victoria, what are you doing? I help you stay awake. She surely did. I did not fall asleep on that trip. So while I had her, one of her little friends in a wheelchair passed away. I would say die, but I have a friend that has a fit. You have to say passed. So she was upset because she didn't get to go to the funeral. I said, don't worry. When I take you home, I will take you to the cemetery and let you lay flowers on the grave. So I took her home. We go to the cemetery. Now, Victoria has lots of problems. One, she can't read. The other, she has hearing loss. She has no hearing in one ear and only about 28% in the other, and she reads your lips a lot. Now, I've known this child since the minute she's born. I know these things, but I'm getting old. I forget. So I'm walking through this cemetery with her, and she's driving me nuts. I didn't know where the cemetery plot was, so I'm looking at the graves, and she's going, is this it? 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 Finally, I said, Victoria, take my camera. You take pictures, and I will tell you when I find it. So I'm walking along. I get ahead of her because she's stopping to take pictures. And all of a sudden, from in front of her, I said, oh, look, Victoria, they've dug a grave, but they haven't put anybody in it yet. Forgot the kid doesn't hear. I take a few more steps, and I hear this funny little I thought, what was that? I turned around. She fell in the grave. She fell in the grave. Now, I'm dying. I'm just rolling in the cemetery, just dying, you know. So I'm thinking, you know, I have to get her out. She has cerebral palsy. You can't pull on the left arm or you'll break it, so I'm going to have to do it. So I'm looking around for help in the cemetery. There's not a soul, well, not a living soul, in this cemetery. So I finally get over there. I'm trying to pull her out, and she's screaming at me, "Get me out of here, sister. Dead people are touching me. Dead people, I tell you." Well, now I'm laughing even harder. So I'm trying to pull and trying to pull. She says, "I'm getting dead people bacteria on me. Dead people, I tell you." I finally grabbed her little face and said, "Victoria, you are going to have to shut up because I cannot pull and laugh at the same time." So I finally hauled her little tiny hiney out of the grave, dusted her all off, found the grave, put the flowers on them, took her home. She walked in the door. Here's the mentally challenged child, takes one look at my mother and said, "Mom, I had a grave adventure." I said, "To heck if she didn't." And guys, I've had a wonderful adventure with you. Thank you very much for coming. Good night. Good night.